Yo, we're live. Hello, my chef knife enthusiasts. Today I'm going to show you something really special. My 180mm Keijiro Doi Usuba. I bought it from a collector in Canada. He needed to get rid of some of his knives to make more space and room for new ones. You know how it goes. You buy knives, you sell knives because you want another knife. And I was happy to help him get rid of this one. Apparently, Keijiro Doi-san was one of the finest blacksmiths who have ever lived. Sakai City is home to many of the world's master blacksmiths for more than 600 years. One of the best was Keijiro Doi here at 86 years old in his forge. A first-class smith from the old guard, a master artisan in the traditional blacksmithing art. The Doi family has been knife makers for more than 200 years. Keijiro Doi was born in 1927 and entered the world of Sakai City's traditional knife forging at the age of 19, determined to master his chosen art. Keijiro Doi applied years of discipline and hard work to achieve the highest level of craftsmanship. He was certified a Dento Kogashi, a master blacksmith, in 1987. In the 1997 Spring Conferment, he was awarded the Green Polonia Leaves Medal, which is one of the highest honor you can achieve in Japan. Keijiro Doi's Aogami single bevel knives are legendary, reputed as the best single bevel Bluetooths. How come? To avoid decarbonation of the steel and enlargement of the steel's grain size, he forged, welded and forged steels at a much lower temperatures than other blacksmiths. So Keijiro Doi was acclaimed for perfecting this very difficult low-temperature forging technique called Eyakidoshi. And he was a pioneer of forging blue number 2 steel, which was previously thought to be an impossible task. By now, many blacksmiths know how to forge with blue number 2 steel, but he was one of the first to perfect it. Keijiro Doi was the first blacksmith who has received great praise from top caliber chefs for his masterful use of blue number 2 steel in particular, since it is a especially high performance material. I assume he only made single bevel knives throughout his whole career. I'm actually pretty sure, even though I did not fact check it. Keijiro Doi once said in an interview, "You can't compare my knives with most of the Western double-edged knives. You just fumble around with them. They really are rubbish." That doesn't sound like somebody who forges double knives would say now, does it?
Fair enough.
Officially retired at the age of 85 in 2012, Keijiro Doi is hailed as a master of his trade, but sadly Keijiro Doi passed away in 2017. Rest in peace. Let's just see what it looks like. Ah.
You look at it like you're seeing a unicorn.
Wow. Like a lot of traditional Japanese single bevel knives, their beauty lies in their simplicity, like their clean look, without a beautiful Damascus patterns, without tsuchime patterns. This just looks like an amazing piece of steel, perfectly shaped in the form of an usuba. Somehow that's more than enough. Wow, this is definitely the most beautiful hand chiseled kanji that I have seen on a knife. Beautiful hand chiseled kanji. It's so beautifully done. I think if you are somebody that knows how to do Japanese kanji calligraphy, you would already be happy to do this with a pen or with a pencil, let alone chisel it into steel. Whoever did this was a master. I don't know if Keijiro Doi actually chiseled his own kanji on his blade, but whoever did this was a true master of the craft. Wowie. So this is a 180mm Usuba. Obviously it was forged with blue number 2 steel. What else? Keijiro Doi, master of the blue number 2 steel. It has a nice kasumi finish on the shinogi, on the bevel side, and it's a beauty. I always like the geometry of the tip on a single bevel traditional Japanese knife. The profile of the blade is typical for an usuba, very rectangular in shape obviously, but with a nice rounding at the tip, so you could actually use it on the cutting board for some light chopping or mincing. But considering the lack of height on this usuba, I think it mostly is supposed to be used for the katsuramuki technique and other of the cutting board techniques. At least there is not that much of knuckle clearance. The spine is nice and thick at the tang and has a nice little taper towards the tip. For such a small blade, it has quite some heft to it. Yeah, it's a really no-nonsense Japanese usuba. Don't mistake this usuba blade for a nakiri. The nakiri is basically a double bevel version of the usuba that usually is a little bit taller, so that it is able to shine on the cutting board as a very handy and versatile vegetable cleaver. This is not a nakiri. This is a single bevel usuba. Very clean and forged by an OG. Perhaps the best ever to do it with blue number 2. What a find! What I like the most are all the tiny little kanji and that blacksmith stamp. Because of the machi gap, you can actually see a little bit of the blacksmith stamp as well, which is normally hidden inside of the handle because it's placed on the tang. There's a story behind this blacksmith stamp that I would like to share with you. Until about 15 years ago, it was not customary to put a blacksmith stamp on the tang at all. The reason is simple and as follows. Knives in Sakai are made by a whole division of labor between blacksmiths and sharpeners. The wholesaler procured a knife from a trusted sharpener, then attached a handle, then stamped the wholesaler's brand on the front of the knife and sold it to retailers. Therefore, the last manufacturing responsibility was with the wholesaler. So the knife brand was the name of the wholesaler. The blacksmiths and sharpeners were not disclosed at all. Since Tatsuo Ikeda, a blacksmith of Sakai's traditional craftsman, was introduced on television, there has been an increase in end-user requests to put the blacksmith's name on the knife. As a result, now the name of the knife maker is added on the blade. However, in that case, the wholesaler would stamp the knife of the blacksmith on the blade. There may be a blacksmith stamp on the tang with an old knife. This is for the sharpener to identify the blacksmith of the knife. As I explained earlier, the wholesaler then attached the handle to the knife. So the customer cannot see the blacksmith stamp on the tang because the tang is hidden inside of the handle. So that's a little bit in explanation and the history of why a blacksmith stamp was ending up on the tang of an old knife. And in this case, what I do like is that I can actually see a glimpse of that blacksmith stamp right there where the tang enters this handle. If this blade didn't have this machi gap, we wouldn't know if it was there without taking off the handle. Now let's have a good look at the construction and shape of this usuba. Because when we talk about the shape of a blade, its profile is usually what springs to mind first. The blade, however, has two more very important characteristics: the shape of its cross-section, the grind of the knife, and the ground and shape of the cutting edge, the bevel. If I look at the knife straight from the handle to the tip, I can see the cross-section of the knife and the angle at which the blade surface has been sharpened from its spine to the cutting edge. The grind, therefore, is how the blade is thinned to reveal the cutting edge. Traditional Japanese single bevel knives are knives with a bevel on the front side, the shinogi, and a concave backside, the uroshi. There is a super thin edge around the urasuki. Urasuki refers to the slightly concave lower part of the backside of the knife, the thin rim that surrounds the concave urasuki, which serves to optimize performance and enhance the strength of the blade, is called the uroshi. It reduces the effect of food sticking to the blade and lends itself well to certain cutting techniques. As I mentioned before, the katsuramuki.
I'll show you my katsuramuki technique.
Due to the fact that Keijiro Doi is considered to be one of the goats and sadly has passed away more than 6 years ago, I consider this knife to be a collector's item. Hence, I have never used it and I won't probably ever use it. Although I really want to. Maxime Enevoldsen, the owner of Japanese Natural Stones in Denmark, visited Amsterdam the other day and we had dinner. He said to me, "You are afraid of using it because you don't know how to restore it to its original condition after using it." Yeah, I guess that's true. He has a solid point there. But I also kind of don't want to use this knife out of respect for Keijiro Doi, if that makes any sense. You know, I'm normally on team use the knife because knives are usable pieces of art to me, with the emphasis on usable. These knives are made for cutting, and that's just what they'll do. But there are collectible grade of knives, of course, and I decided that this is one of them. His knives are fairly hard to come by. Not impossible. Obviously, I managed to get my hands on one, but of course, they are all sold out at normal vendors and retailers. You can only get these from second-hand market, and you need to be a little bit lucky during the hunt. Keijiro Doi will obviously never make any more knives. He might have been one of the goats, but even Keijiro Doi can't forge knives from the grave. It's an Usuba, a single bevel knife, which is a knife I don't need and use a lot in my kitchen. And when I do, I'm using my Nigara Almond Usuba.
It sounds that you're just trying to justify not using the knife.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely not like me. I'm a use a knife type of guy, and I really want to use this knife. I also want to be able to restore it into its original condition. I don't have the sharpening skills yet to do that. I don't own any other knife that is a collectible grade of knife, in my opinion. All these knives that you see behind me are being used, one more than the other. The point is that I use them all. They are usable pieces of art. I display them as a piece of art, but in the kitchen I use them as a tool. I mean, it's the only way to find out if a knife is any good. So, that being said, with pain in my heart, I have decided to sell this knife because personally I don't want to become a knife collector.
Man got 40 plus knives but doesn't want to be a collector.
I mean, not a collector, if you know what I mean. Someone who owns a ton of knives but not using them, like a collector that only displays their knives. I don't want to be one of them. I'm not judging anyone who does. I mean, do whatever you want with your money. You can be a collector. I'm not bashing you. It's just that I want to be a collector of knives that I actually use as well. So if you want to collect knives and just display them, by all means, eat your heart out, do you? But that's not me. True, some people that see my knife collection think that I'm rich, but nah, bro, I'm just irresponsible.
Finally, he speaks the truth.
Anyway, my point is, I can't justify owning this knife and not using it. So if you are interested in owning this 180mm Keijiro Doi Usuba, forged out of his favorite blue number 2 steel, hit me up. Bidding starts at 1,250 euros.
That kind of money buys a lot of catnip on the streets.
I wish I was in New York in March 2021 because Korin was exhibiting a few of the last masterpieces of Keijiro Doi, the so-called lost Keijiro Doi knives. The 13 knives that were displayed at Korin's store in New York City are part of Keijiro Doi's Hayate line and other special crafted knives, engraved with a number on the backside of the knife to indicate each unique piece, numbered 00, 001, and 002. These knives were never up for sale at any point of their existence. They are only meant for exhibiting purposes, as museum pieces. I would have loved to have a close look at those knives, these masterpieces by Keijiro Doi. But yeah, I've never been to New York, so I wasn't there in 2021. The Suisin Hayate series of knives is now carried on by his son Itsuo Doi, since he is now running the blacksmith shop that his father founded. Keijiro Doi passed all his skills onto his son. Itsuo Doi has been working alongside of his father and forging knives for more than half a century. Like his father, he is very thorough at each step of the forging process. Rather than rush to forge his blades into the right shape, he heats up the steel just enough to make it workable. Overheating steel when forging enlarges the carbide size, the steel particle size, which makes for a more brittle knife. By using as little heat as possible, Doi-san is able to make his knives more durable. Itsuo Doi's son specialized in single bevel knives, just like his father, but Sakai Takayuki convinced him to start make double bevel knives as well. As always, thank you for watching this video. Leave a comment down below. I hope to catch you in the next one. That's all, folks.